The horse racing industry empowered free people to buy land, build homes and churches, and it helped other enslaved people to become free.
That was part of your freedom, because most of the time they rode for their slave masters, and that's how you got your freedom, and you got a chance to live better than the other blacks that was on the plantation. And like I said, the greatest of them all, they call him the crown prince of jockeys, Isaac Murphy, and he wanted to be at one time he was the richest athlete in the country. Because he got himself freed from the slave master, and he went on and done great things, except for when he got to come up north there. I think come to Monmouth Park, and he had ride some big race here, and they say they tried to poison him. Yeah. It's all part of the history, right in the history books right there. They haven't been able to prove it, but he got very sick and darn near died.
There's a lot of stuff going on just trying to be able to.
You know what I'm saying? But you got it's
do
tough
your
enough.
job.
But it's tough enough. But this is what I had to go through. And besides being a whole lot better than everybody else.
Now, when you were younger, there were how many, say when you went to Saratoga to stay with the family and stuff, how many black jockeys were there?
Well, there was McCurdy. He was riding at that time. Then Albert Brown, he wasn't riding then. Actually, when it was only one, I think, yeah, one that because I knew about. And by the time I really got to ride, Bobby McCurdy, he was the only black jockey. He had retired. Right. So when I really got started, I was out there by myself.
What led you into the horse racing industry?
Well, I had relatives in New York, two particular uncles, Rogers Morgan and B.T. Morgan. And they used to come through every summer to visit the family. And so one summer, it was the aunt that happened to come along with them. And they said, you know what? That boy looked like he could be a jockey. Because they were great horse fans. They would go to racetrack in New York, Belmont, Aqueduct. And so they looked at me, they said, well, you know, you can be a jockey. I didn't know what they were talking about when they said jockey. So the following year, the same thing happened. And so they said, how would you like to come to New York, spend the summer, and we'd take you out to the track? I said, sure, I would love to do that. Because everybody wanted to go to New York, you know, back in them days. So I went up there, they took me out to the track. So I said, yeah, it's nice, I like it, but I didn't get involved in it until the following summer at the age of 15. They said, do you want to come back to New York? I said, sure. They said, we'll take you up there, we'll put you in school, we got a horse farm, the black owner who owned the farm. Oh. And they said that you can go out there and start training to see if you, if you like it. Now, after the summer, you can go to school there and, you know, you're following in the footsteps of being a jockey. So I wound up staying up there for the summer, and I really enjoyed it. Like, to me, it seemed like I was a natural. And I really enjoyed it, and so I went to school. Matter of fact, at Freehold Regional, and I stayed there for a year. I left the farm, went to the racetrack, and just like that, I got a job the first day I was there, exercising horses.
At Freehold Race?
No, in New York. Oh, in New York. At Belmont Park. Wow. But I went to school, and I trained at the farm outside of Freehold. But after that first year, that's when I went to New York. And like you say, the first job on the racetrack was for the Vanderbilt family. They're the big stable horses in New York. Oh. And so I started crafting my skills. And so after a couple of months of being employed for the Vanderbilts, their head trainer said, well, Ronnie, you know, we're getting a little short on horses. We won't be able to take you to Saratoga. But if you want to go to Saratoga, I got a very good outfit I can connect you with. I said, sure, no problem. So I went up there. I went to work for Christiana Stable, which that is the DuPonts.
Oh, the DuPonts.
The
yeah.
DuPonts, and
Okay.
they were very, very big in the game. And big stable with a lot of good horses. And so right away he hired me, and then, like I say, look, everything just came so natural to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I started getting on like a few horses every day, and he put me on the payroll. And then, so I left Saratoga with the Maryland.
Mm-hmm.
And so they, you know, kept me on. And I went to Maryland. That's my first experience with, I guess you call it Jim Crow, the racial prejudice. And I got to Pimlico Racetrack, and them days, you know, the apprentice jockey where you're learning, you had to stay on the racetrack. So I stayed there, woke up the next morning, gonna go take a shower. I looked at the, where they had the showers there for the employees, and it had white and black. We had a shower and, you know, wash up, go to the bathroom. It said white, and the other one says black. And I really couldn't understand it.
And that's your first
And
time?
that's my first experience of seeing the.
Because you're coming from Pennsylvania, you come from
Pittsburgh, yeah, I never seen anything like
New
that.
York, and then all this time.
Right, and like you say, I'm speaking about, this is like in the 63.
Oh.
And that was at the height of all of the racial tensions, and we're trying to get our civil liberties, and get our rights to do anything, you know.
Of course, right.
And it was a rude awakening to me, because I mean, I never expected this type of challenge.
Mm-hmm.
And also, I think it was the same winter or the following year was my first trip to really experiencing the racial prejudice. And I was on the van, leaving Pimlico Racetrack, going to the fairgrounds in New Orleans. And we had it right on the back of the trailer, on the van. And so we stopped, I think it was Tennessee, Mississippi, a couple of stops. And so we got to get off to get some food. And the driver told us, no, you can't get off the van. He said they don't allow blacks to go in there, which they didn't use the black, they used another word.
Oh.
And so I said, what? They said, no, you can't go in there. And so it happened to be a white fella, young white boy named Red, I'll never forget. And he said, that's all right, I'll go in and get your food for you. So he had to go in and get our food.
Red went in and got it.
And so that's, and I knew it was 2 stops he made, the one in Tennessee and one in Mississippi.
Wow.
And then, so I get to the fairgrounds, and all of a sudden I get there, I go to the cafeteria, one side is white, other side is black.
So that brings a real relevancy to everything you're seeing was happening on
Yeah,
TV.
but, and this is like I'm a young kid, and I never even, I didn't know I was,
In your 20s.
I didn't know what I got myself into.
A couple of friends of mine in school, they told me where to get a job at on the racetrack in Maryland, Pimlico Racetrack. And they both did now. And I was 15. I dropped out of school, and I wasn't no job for a black man, young kid in Baltimore at that time. So when I went on the racetrack, I made just as much money as I was an exercise boy. I made just as much money as a white boy. And I thought that was living. Yeah.
Now, where were your parents from, and what did they do?
My father was a waiter to retire on the railroad, B&O Railroad. My mother never did work, and she was from New York. And her mother was from Ireland. They came over on the boat. And that's the way it was.
Now, per your perspective, how was the job market for black folks when you came to the racetrack? Because the relevancy here is how the thoroughbred industry related to black self-reliance and sustainability.
All the jobs, mediocre jobs of taking care of horses and digging, and that, all blacks. Them days it was all blacks. Pimlico, I mean, you travel anywhere, it's all all blacks, it's all Spanish today. It's all Spanish. And any work that you did with your hands was black. And the whites came in, trained the horses, and blacks taught them how to train horses. They was the foreman, assistant trainers, and things like that. But that's the way you got a good job. In Baltimore itself, you couldn't get no black man. Maybe you could carve bricks or something, a bricklayer. But we couldn't get the jobs that we got on the racetrack. And the blacks taught the whites, and now it's all Spanish. But the blacks did it all when it comes to working with your hands. They washed the windows, they did the grass, cleaned the toilets. The blacks did that. You could get a job. And it was good money in those days. Very good money.
You know, it's interesting because the thoroughbred industry was another popular way to make money down south. So part of that legacy of training horses and riding them and being a jockey, that sort of was something that came out of slavery. But there's even a deeper history because those thoroughbred horses really come from other countries. And so it's a deep story, and it's part of how I think you could see the trend of how at one time you were not able to be paid for this type of work. Then you get to a point where you're able to be paid for this type of work, and then you become an expert in that field. But then because of discrimination, there's ways to then, in a sense, forfeit that. And you guys, being that you were a clerk, how was that to be the first black clerk at Monmouth Racetrack?
It was a beautiful job, you know. And the guy my boss, he gave me a big window selling ticket. I had a $50 window. And he gave me the law, if I catch you doing this and smoking and drinking on the window, you're gonna fall. So I threw up my hands. I said, you might well fire me now. But that's what I'm gonna do, you know. So,
And talent.
yeah.
Did they smoke and drink a lot out at the track?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Oh, definitely. Music clerks, at 12 o'clock when the bar opened up, they were right there before they went to work.
Right, didn't you just keep a couple of liquor around their window right there?
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Remember those days,
Okay.
Kate?
Now I'm gonna switch over to a different dimension. That self-sufficiency, do you think you got that spirit from your parents or your grandparents?
I think I got that from watching where I was growing up at,
And where were you growing up?
and didn't want to accept it.
And where were you growing up, Philly?
In Philly, in the hood, killing, shooting, and Philadelphia was one of the highest crime gang killing at that time, and that was in not my neighborhood. And I was actually with a young group. We was on the corner just sitting talking one night, and I went in about a half an hour before I went in. They came in and blew one of my friends' heads off that night. And it was I just didn't want to be involved with that. I
How
just
old
said
were
this
you?
would be. I was probably about 16, 17 then. But I just said, this is not for me. I just, and being in the racetrack, so I started going to Green Mountain when I was 14. And you saw something different. It was greenery, people out there having a good time and all. I said, this is Williamstown, and this is beautiful up here. I said, and I had to go back to the city and the crime, and I just said, I'm not gonna do that personally myself. It's something better. I went back and started talking to the kids I grew up with, and I started talking to them and said, look, it's something better out here than where we are, where we live in. I said, they have homes, single homes for $17,000, where we paying $10,000 for a row home that's run down. See, we don't know that when you're not out there. And I started experiencing that. And I said, why go and pay $10,000 in the hood for a home when you can pay $17,000 for a single home that's going to appreciate, and our neighborhood's going to depreciate. So that's what all that little stuff I started learning by being on the racetrack and being around the white man that knew what was going on, and they started teaching me on top of that. They started teaching me about investing money, putting money in the stock market and everything, so you started learning that. So I started passing that down to the young kids in my neighborhood. My sons and his friends, I would sit down and tell them how about investing in Wall Street and different things and building up wealth. And they all are doing good, you know, and I continually do that today. I mean, I'm always helping the kids and elderly. I'm a person just like helping people and raising them up if I can, you know, that's
Yeah,
just who I am.
he's good, he's good.
Yeah.
He's the best.
My profession is clocker at the New Jersey, mainly in New Jersey racetrack. Clocking is the timing of the horses to present to the bettors the time. They see the times of the horses, how they work. So we work basically for a newspaper, but now we work for the racetrack of New Jersey. I've been doing that since 76, clocking horses, and I'm also buying and working with the thoroughbreds and purchasing at the horse sales. And I work for different groups of people. Right now I'm employed by a group from Japan that I work for, and we purchase horses there. And so it's been good for me. That I haven't ran into much of the prejudice they have growing up. I ran into, as far as my industry that I'm into, I think it's a lot of, well, not even think, I know it's there. and it's hard for me to get the clients to work for. I have people who started behind me that I showed what I was doing that's working for top money people now in the business, that they're way above me, and I'm still at my same level after 20-something years. So that's sometimes the disappointing part. But you know, I always say what God has for me is for me, and I don't focus on any of that. I just don't do what I have to do. Well, like I said, when these guys, they was way before me. I didn't start until in the 70s. So when I came here, I got started through a relative also. He was working at the racetrack, and at that time, it was a couple of black clockers up there. Rodney was up there at that time helping out in the background, and so it was quite a few of us there. And when I came on board, now it's just, in New Jersey, it's just all Afro-American, my cousin Tyrone, another young lady, but all the other racetracks that I've been to, they're 90% now, they're all mostly Caucasian whites that's working, doing what we do. Jersey has been held pretty good in our industry on this side, as clocking, as keeping, even though they try to break through a couple of people and move in with our jobs, but they couldn't keep up with the competition and knowing what they were doing. So they thought it was easy, basically, to come in and do the job.
Oh, clocking's not easy. That is not an easy job.
And management let them go. They were trying to hire their own clockers, different from us, I guess, to try to infiltrate with them, but it wasn't working out. So they had to revert back to our group that we was doing, and they got rid of the other clockers they had. They were all mostly white that they were hiring. They got rid of them. So we've been with them the whole time since then. Back in 75, I think it was 75, somewhere in there, 75, 76, I came up with my idea, pioneered it. I got tired of writing the markings for horses, because it's like 1,600 horses. Every track you go to, you got to write the markings down all the time. So this have to be a better way. So I started investigating, and I didn't know anything about computers, nothing like that. I did take some computer class in college, but so I went to Apple at the time, looking for a portable computer to carry, and they wasn't like $5,000 or $6,000 for them little computers back then. As a man, they said, well, we just came out with a computer called the Macintosh Plus. It's about 25 pounds and everything. He said, maybe that'll work for you. And it was cheap. It was like $600 or something. I said, oh, let me try that. So I started putting all my markings in, going into the office and putting, when I was working at Garden State Racetrack, they had a guy named Bill Hancock that was running the office there. And I was going in at night doing the work. And he came in and said, what are you doing? I said, I'm putting my markings from your fold papers into my computer. He said, how are you doing that? I said, well, just looking and typing it in and everything. He said, oh man, this I think could help us. So, because everything was done by pencil in hand. He said, yeah. So he went to his management and talked to them about it, and they brought in someone to start training people in the office. Now, New Jersey, Garden State, they jumped on board right away. It took about 2 to 3 years for Mama Park to jump on board. They didn't want nothing to do with the computers. They said, no, we're not going to computerized. But I was like the pioneer back then and brought the tracks. And now everyone, the clockers all have computers everywhere we go. And so that little history of me has just got wiped underneath the rug. Nobody know anything about it except the ones that was around some of the trainers that come around, they tell people, oh man, you know, this guy was the first one that I've ever seen. I couldn't believe he had a big old computer sitting on his desk. So yeah, that was a highlight for me in this industry, you know.
Wow.
And, yeah. I was born in Mount Olive, North Carolina, which the pickle factory, Mount Olive pickles that you see on the shelves.
Oh, okay.
And in 1951, and it was you know, I left there when I was young, and that was another experience of prejudice that I didn't really see because I came from Philadelphia, and when I used to go back and see my grandmother, my relatives there, and it was about 1960, and I walked downtown. It was with a relative, and she went into the hardware store. And I was like hot, sweaty, wanted a drink of water. So I walked into Woolworth's 5 and 10 cent store. Walked up to the counter and asked the guy for a glass of water. Phew, my cousin came and grabbed me and snatched me out of that place. Are you crazy? You can't come in here and ask for no water.
Well, how old were you?
I was like 10 years old.
Oh.
They wasn't allowed to drink at the counters and everything, but the guy served me. He served me. But I guess that stigma with them, once it's in their mind, they're not going to cross that line. I didn't know anything about that line.
Learned
So,
behavior.
right, so I just went on in there. So I was just the talk of the town when I went back home. That Gaither Ray boy, can you believe he walked into Woolworths and asked that man for a white man for some water, but they gave it to him. I was surprised they gave it to him. I mean, so that's the first time. I was like scared the way they was talking, you know. I was like, man, what did I do, you know, because we didn't see
Your
any of that.
agent of change. You
Yes.
never even knew it.
No, we didn't know nothing about that in Philadelphia.
We had a clocker, a few clockers, trainer, owner and stuff. And he said we had to form this here little network. We stick together, help each other. Right. And we got a chance to succeed. I mean, we were rolling at that particular time. You remember,
Right.
Frank, we had the little discussions about helping each other and keep trying to push each other, help them up instead of knocking each other down.
Especially in the industry that we
Yeah,
were in.
and
But there
I
was
think-
just a small group of
They
us.
said we just stick together. And we were
We
doing
were
very
good,
well.
and they-
Yeah,
they
very well.
broke.
I think I went to about the 7th grade. I was 14. I left and went to work. My father, he was a waiter, and he had 8 kids. And all of them went to college except me. And I asked him, you know, I said, I'm going to go to the racetrack, get a job. He said, see you later. And I went across the street and started crying, waiting on the bus. He didn't tell me to stay at school or do anything. He just said, see you later. And I went and had a little bag. And at night, and I went out there and somebody let me sleep on the floor at the track and got up early the next morning and got a job. And I think I walked a couple of horses and paid it. I made about $2 or $3 the next day. And I thought I was in heaven.
I don't know, like I said, Tatum said, we was all doing pretty good and enjoying things and having a good time. And it was an incident on the track, and the track is private grounds. So if they don't want you there, you can't be there. So it started with my cousin who brought me in this clocking. Something happened with him, I don't know what, but they said that they thought it was undesirable. So they told him that he wasn't allowed to work there anymore. So he had to leave, and then Tanner had an incident off the track. It wasn't even nothing to do with the track. They told Tanner he had to leave in the situation. So they basically got those two off the track and kind of broke us up. And on incidents that wasn't even, nobody really even know why, but it was just because we figured it because we was doing so good and we was together that they had to think of a way to just
Like anything, if they want to get you, they can get you.
And they dismantled. They
They
dismantled.
they want to get you in life, period.
And they dismantled him for 10 years. 10 years. That's
7
what
years, 7 years, yeah.
ruined his career basically. They just told him that they just gave him, and my cousin, they gave him life. He couldn't work in Jersey at all anymore. So they just.
So it's racial undertone.
Yeah, the racial undertone, and we,
so
you know,
criminal.
right. And then you read and you see jockeys and people doing so many different things wrong on the track, and they're still working. you know, and you know, when it's come to the blacks on the track, it's just like, we do anything wrong, it's like, you're gone. And that was, you know, that was that's what they did. That was, you know, can't say anything about it. That's how they broke us up.
They divide us and they conquer us.
As you say,
that was it.
strength is together, and then
Yeah.
you divide, you break it down.
And
so.
we was pretty strong them days too.
Cause we was getting people who was recognizing us. We were getting owners, black owners that wanted to get into the business because they had blacks we had a rider, we had a trainer, we had a clocker. So they felt confident that they could get into the business and participate.
Right.
And once it started breaking up, that, you know, when we had these guys coming to us and looked like we were starting to do good with them, now here it comes and we start breaking it up. And then those owners that we was trying to pull in, they started leaving and not being around because now we didn't have that group together no more. So I guess they were skeptic and dealing outside of us, and so, but we had quite a few good black owners that had money, that was involved in the game and owned horses, like 10 or 12 nice horses. We had one trainer, Frank Henson, he owned about 10 or 12 himself.
And that other made us strong too, is they seen that we had a black man who was putting his own money.
With his own money.
His own money, and we're having success. So then they get other black people, they say, well, they do got one black owner, he's doing good, making money, he's happy. So then they're easier for them to come aboard. Yeah.
They wrote him off too, why not eventually getting him off the track.
Yeah.
So about what time is this happening? This in the
70s, in the 70s.
Yeah,
It's like
all
these
around in the
same patterns
70s.
and shadows. I'm sure it's the same thing what Mr. Rock and what also those first Kentucky Derby jockeys who won so much money. My other grandfather, Brittingham, he was a harness racer in Delaware. He was born in slavery, but when he came out, you know, he was able to win a lot of races in Maryland and Delaware. But somehow there seems to be a dismantling. Like you get to a point, and then it's, you know, dismantled.
Right.
And then you get to that point again, and it's dismantled.
Right.
And then what you guys showing what happened in the 70s, you get to a point,
Dismantled.
and then it's dismantled.
Well, this is almost like the politics to now. Obama, we get to a point with a black president, and they're dismantling that.
Yeah.
How often is that going to happen again?
Yeah.
You see how they're dismantling that. How they bring the separation in the country now, dividing us, so that can't happen again in another long, long time. So anytime we seem to get to a level, they dismantle it.
I think it was in the 80s, I went back to Brookdale and got my GED. That was just something I said I wanted to do, you know. And like I said, I had one more year left of high school. And like I said, just something I knew it wasn't like it was going to help me, but it's just something I wanted to do. And I went back and to Brookdale, got my GED, and I feel pretty proud of myself for doing it.